Good morning. We're back to continue our Rust side quest. We return once again. I'm a little bummed this morning. My football team lost in the playoffs yesterday, which was kind of a letdown. But what are you going to do? Good morning, Ahmed. How are you? Good morning, Blackfire. Good morning, Ilmanian. Two people on Twitch are here first before all the YouTube gets here. Dang. Good morning, Almighty. How are you guys doing? Man, thank y'all. Appreciate you guys. Part of the early crew. Early crew, gang, gang. All right. Well, since I guess you guys are already here, I guess we should get started, huh? Hold on, I gotta plug in my phones. I forgot to do that last night. Ahmed Nasser, can I ask what is your role, if you don't mind? Do you mean like what's my job? Is that what you're curious about? Because if you want like all the details, you can go to my LinkedIn. You can go to exclamation point LinkedIn in the chat, and it will take you to my LinkedIn profile. But my day job is as a quality engineer, so I do automated and manual testing for a web application, a SaaS platform. But yeah, you're welcome to go to my LinkedIn and creep as much as you like and click around and follow all the links. But I'm pretty open about that kind of stuff. Like I'm just a real ordinary human being, right? So there's nothing super secretive to hide. I do try to kind of um, keep a good separation of church and state. So I try not to talk out of school too much. Like I'm happy to answer questions kind of about the day job, but I try not to share any information that maybe shouldn't be shared publicly, or that basically if the information's public information, then it's not really an issue to share. But other than that, then I try to avoid it. And obviously, anything I do here on my streams is not representative of my employer's opinions. These are my own, right? All the disclaimers, whatever those disclaimers are, put them here. But yeah, I figure most people can understand that. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna plug this phone in. My goal this year is to watch Steven for 100 days straight. Okay, well, I'll try to. We hit the 100-day stream mark a while back. Let's see. Let's see. How long have we been? We have not missed a stream in over like 120 days or something like that. It's actually pretty crazy. Good morning, Maddie. Hello, KS. How are you? It's been a minute, man, since I've seen you around my stream. So thanks for stopping in. Let me see if I can. Somebody told me what was the best way to do this. I think if I go to content, and then maybe if I go to or advanced, maybe if I go to advanced mode and I do last 136 days. I need to do a better job of keeping this count up. Yeah, I think the last time we checked it was September. The last time I missed a stream was like September 27th of 2025, I think. To today, what is that? 113 days. That's pretty good, right? So we'll keep it up. Hopefully we can do 100 days straight. Good morning, Mark. Yeah, man, been busy these days. Oh yeah, no worries, dude. Good to see you again, though. I'm glad you've been busy. You know, that's what life's about. Life's about doing stuff, not necessarily being available for every live stream. So I get it, man. I get it. Let's see. I'm slowly but surely making the themes apply to everything in the app. Oh, nice. Very cool. Okay, yes. Was watching your stream commands website. Nice. Yeah, we finished that up. That was like a afternoon project, right? I just wanted something where people in chat could type like help, or they could type commands, right? Kind of like what we had with streamer elements or stream elements, but when I moved from stream elements to streamerbot for all my overlays and whatnot, I kind of lost that ability. Streamerbot has a similar thing, but because YouTube and um, Twitch have message limits, it's difficult to dump all the commands into chat. So it's much better just to reference like a web page, just like Stream Elements did. Maddie, lurk, unlurk. Do you want an unlurk command, Maddie? We can add an unlurk command if you want. Mark, I don't have enough points. I forgot I used it last night. Oh no, damn. Not necessarily. Okay, well, if you guys ever want additional commands, just let me know. I'm happy to add them. Whatever makes it more fun to hang out and chat. All right. Omani, a new command? Yeah, we could do an unlurk command, or like just basically a command that like, does it fetch a link for you? Does it say something funny? You know what I mean? I mean, we have text to speech already hooked up, so that's already there. But yeah, if there's something like that, I'm not sure what other commands you can do. All right, Rustlings it is. I think we're like 30 exercises away from being done with this thing. Blackfire. Also, Def's no pressure to accept my theme's contribution when it's finished. I'm just doing my own thing. Oh yeah, no worries, dude. I'd be happy to have it if it allows us to add and remove skins. I'm sure people would like that ability. I mean, I would like that ability. Yeah, or dance. What does that command do, Mark? Do I have to dance? I don't know if that's something you guys want to see. Love Rustlings. Yeah, Rustlings has been pretty fun. Yeah, I'm really thankful for the human beings who sat down and put it together for us so we could use it. So it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Oh man. When I woke up this morning and I saw it was -3 degrees outside, I thought, I don't want to get out of my bed. Lurk away, good sir, lurk away. All right, we are on iterators 4. So we're on 73 out of 94. So we have about 21 more exercises to go. -3, man. Isn't that crazy? -3. Whew. Yeah, I can show you guys what it looks like outside, actually. One sec. It says it's cold and it looks cold. They canceled school today, so my wife and my kids are actually home all day. Okay, here's what it looks like outside. It is cold. It looks very, very cold. All right. Rustlings. Focus, Steven. Focus. Are you learning Rustlings by doing leak code exercises or what? I'm learning Rustlings by reading the Rust programming language book and also using this website called Rustlings. Or this, I guess, this group of exercises called Rustlings. It's basically like an interactive terminal. An interactive set of exercises based in the terminal. So this is what I'm using. If people are curious, I'll put this in the chat. At KS. Hold on, how do I spell? Yep, that's what I'm using. Every time I come to YouTube, I see you streaming weird. I guess YouTube's being very aggressive by recommending my content to you. Mark, -3, man. Here at my country, I think it is the first time it reached 18 degrees. Oh man, it was so cold I can't even move my knees. Yeah, it's cold here for sure, for sure. Thanks, man. Of course, yeah, of course. I'm gonna go. I have something to do. Okay, see you, Almanian. Have a good day, man. Thanks for hanging out. How are you? Hey, what's up, Kurtz? I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I'm just waking up, getting my coffee, getting my first coffee of the day drank. Yeah, things are going good, man. Things are going good. No complaints. $70 degrees in Florida. I'm a little jealous, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was watching YouTube Shorts before, and I saw some guy that looked like you. Oh, I wonder if it was There's a dude that chat has said that I've looked like for a real long time. Coding with Lewis. I wonder if that's who you were thinking of. Chat has told me that me and him are kind of resemble each other a little bit. Actually, people have told me that they stopped to watch my video because they thought it was him. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Kurtz, yes? Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. You're not the first one. Oh man, it was burning in Florida. Long lost brother. I don't know. I think he might be Canadian. I don't know so if he is a long lost brother, we got really, really lost. Let's see. Try to complete this function, return the factorial of num, which is defined as 1 times 1, blah, 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 times done. Don't use early returns. Okay. Try not to use imperative style loops. Dang, okay. Additional variables, okay. For an extra challenge, don't use recursion. Well, then how the hell do you solve this? Huh. They basically said They basically said don't do any of the things that I know how to do to solve a factorial problem. Huh. Yeah, I have no idea. So you can't solve it imperatively, and you can't use recursion. I am completely at a loss. Well, this is exactly how I wanted to start the stream. Completely stumped. Good morning, Duck Boy. Good morning, Raphael. Good morning, Ulas. KS to Kitchen Loops. It seems like you can't do that. It says you can't use. Try not to use for or while. You can't use additional variables. And don't use recursion. You also cannot use early returns. I have no idea. I'm gonna have to go to Chat GPT or Gemini on this one. I have no fucking clue. Basically, what they said is don't use any of your pre-existing programming knowledge to solve this. Gigantic lookup table, I guess. I don't know. So what else? I don't. Kurt said. So what else is left? That's exactly what I'm thinking. Raphael, this is a curious one. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not gonna waste a bunch of time trying to be clever about it. I'm just gonna ask Copilot. I'm guessing it has something to do with iteration. I'm not sure what, but I'm gonna hop out real quick. I need to figure this one out. Okay, see you, man. Don't do it. Let's waste time. Wait. I'm guessing they want us to do something with iteration, but I'm not sure what. Got a link to this problem somewhere? I don't know if the problems are linked anywhere. Let's see. Looks like they have the repository. Here you go. Where are you at? Bill Reed, bro, do you work from home? I do work from home, although I have to go in the office twice this week. Where are you at? You're on YouTube, aren't you? Yeah. Here you go. It's a really long link, but there you go. Multiplication of consecutive numbers formula, maybe? I've never heard of that. But maybe. I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. I have no idea. How would you... So you basically, you can't use another number. You can't use any more variables. You have to just use num. You have to just use num. And, I mean, obviously, you're just gonna do num minus 1, right? Num times num minus 1. But you can't use a loop. Oh, and you can't use an additional variable either. Well, I guess that's not an additional variable. That's still num. You can't loop. Can't do recursion. So you have to all done in this one function call. I'm not sure how you do it. The great sieve? Yeah, I have no idea. Alright, guys, I'm going to Google this one. If you don't want a spoiler, if you're trying to figure it out yourself, you should probably silence the stream because I'm going to figure it out. Divine, I'm watching this live from West Africa, Ghana. I have an idea and want to create an app. Can you tell me how to move from an idea to an actual app? Thank you. The way you move from an idea to an actual thing is you just start. You know what I mean? Unless you're saying you don't know how to code, right? If you're saying like I don't know how to build an app, like I don't know how to code, then we have lots to talk about. But if you're somebody who already knows how to code and you have an idea, then you just have to begin, you know? Permutation formula maybe? I have no idea, KS. Mark, how can you teach a baby to walk if he won't able to function? I have no idea. All right. Hold on, I'm going to read through the documentation one more time just to make sure I didn't miss anything in here. Yeah, I don't see anything here. Huh. Alright, well, Geminitis. I don't know how to code. Okay, so if you don't know how to code, I would point you at Free Code Camp. Is what I would do. Unless you don't care about coding, like if you don't care about learning to code, then you could always go do something like Replit or Base 44. Like you could use one of these AI tools to kind of vibe code your app if you wanted to. That's totally fine. Otherwise, I would send you over to Free Code Camp if you actually want to learn how to code and build it yourself. freecodecamp.org. Let's see. Given these constraints, how would you solve this? In my opinion, there doesn't seem to be anything left over to solve it with based on the constraints given. I am a total noob. Whoops. Total noob at Rust though. So if it is something Rust specific, that might explain my ignorance. Whoops. I did not copy the right thing. No imperative style loops. Yeah, I know. What does that mean? Think link. Okay, so if I was gonna solve this in C# without doing any of that, this is how I'd probably solve it. Is I would do this. I would say, I would do something like this: enumerable dot range, and we would start from 0, go to num, and then we would do something like aggregate, I think, is the method. And then so no, hold on, I can't use aggregate, can I? Can I? Yeah, I would do something like this, but I don't know how to do that in Rust. So AI it is. AI for the win. Which means that this isn't really testing any of my knowledge about how to program. This is just saying, do you know the APIs that are available to you in Rust? Which I don't. Which I don't know. It definitely feels like a coding escape room when you strip away loops, recursion, extra variables. However, Rust has a very powerful functional side that makes this surprisingly concise. The secret sauce here is iterators. In Rust, you can create a range of numbers and then fold or reduce them into a single value without needing a manual loop. Of course, it was something simple. All right. So I think in C#, yeah, in C#, this would be something like, let's see. So in C# using link, this would be something like, enumerable dot range dot aggregate, right? I think it's aggregate or select. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't remember when we talked about the range operator. Should I have already covered that? Because I must have missed that topic. Okay. Well, now I know. So we can do something like this. We can do this, starting here, going to this, and then dot product. Left equals right. I think I'm missing one. There we go. I had to make it inclusive, right? That's what this does. Rust range operator equals sign. I think it makes it inclusive. The dot dot equals operator creates a standard ops range inclusive type, which contains all the values greater than or equal to the start and less than or equal to the end. Yes, that's what I want. All right. Well, what a fun way to get started today. I had no idea. All right, moving on. Oh, that is fancy syntax. I use +1. Yeah. Yep. Integers are. Yep. Man, I'm glad you guys knew about that. I had no idea. Yes, vanilla. Let's see. Aggregate sums things, right? You can do any aggregation over with the link method. You can give it any callback. Yes, I do want to know how to. Thanks for the link. Yeah, for sure, man. Go for it. KS. It all comes down to logic irrespective of any coding language like Rust or something ultimately. Well, not really though, KS, because like basically what they just said in those constraints is they said we don't care if you know how to solve this in 10 different ways. We only care that you know how to solve it in this one very specific way in Rust, right? That had nothing to do with logic. That had to do with like, do you know how to use the range operator, and do you know how to call? Do you know that there's a method on vectors called product? So it's not really testing anything like logically. Like I know how to solve a factorial problem, right? But they basically said you can't do it in any of the ways you already know how to do it. You have to do it in this one very specific way. I find the dot dot equals ugly, to be honest. That's fair. Yeah, it's not really the most clean syntax, but it's very terse. I usually rather deal with exclusive if I can. Yeah, that makes sense. Posted my solution in Discord if anyone wanted to see for a reason. Yeah, I would love to see. You know, so there is another way for it. How else would you do it? Oh, would you do it like Raphael did it? Raphael said reduce and unwrap. As soon as I left stream, I realized that is about factorial, not fib. Yeah, I mean that's fair. I had no idea that you could do that with vectors. Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's see, 2 dot 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 equals num dot fold 1 accumulator. Nice. Well, I guess now I know about fold and I know about reduce and I know about map. I guess I skipped over that section of the book or something because none of that has come up so far before while doing these exercises. Let's define a simple model to track Rustlings exercise progress. Progress will be modeled using a hashmap. The name of the exercise is the key and the progress is the value. 2 counting functions were created to count the number of exercises with a given progress. Recreate this counting. Functionally using iterators. Try not to use imperative loops. Okay. I know what that means now. You want me to use maps. Let's see. So count iterator, count collection 4, Implement the functionality of count collection for, but with an iterator instead of a for loop. So what is this doing? So this one initializes a count to 0. It loops over every value. It checks to see if the value, if value equals value, count plus equals 1. Okay. So map is a hash map with string keys and progress values. Okay. So what can you do with a map? So map dot what? Let's see. Dot length. Dot capacity. Hold on. I gotta update my NeoVim configs real quick. I gotta hide that documentation pane because that thing's just getting so annoying. I mean, it's kind of hard to cover everything if we're realistic. Oh, no doubt. No doubt at all, man. It is very hard to cover everything, you know? Like, there's so much. Like, how are you going to boil the ocean, right? Especially with all the yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can never learn unless you have to use it, right? So that's why I said, like, I'm not going to sit here and try to be super clever. I don't know. So I just need to go acquire the information. And now I know about range operators and I know about the product method. Okay, so we're going to change this to be documentation. How do I set this? I think I saw a way to do it yesterday. Mvim CMP disable auto showing documentation. I don't think this is what we want. I'll just turn it off for now. I don't know how to do it, but I'm just going to turn it off for now. Let's see. I guess I have to restart NeoVim for it to take effect. And the ordering library. I don't know about the ordering library. I don't think. I think that one's a new one to me. All right, now let's try this. So what things can you do with a map? You can do length, capacity. Oh, there's an iterable. Okay, so maybe that's what we want. We want clear, hasher, get. Do we need a mutable? I don't think we need to mutate anything. We can do into keys. Looks like we do have a values function, right? Values. An iterator visiting all values in arbitrary order. The iterator element type. Okay, so if we were to try to translate what they're doing up here, let's say we're going to get the values. Oh, shoot. Copilot, stop. And then we're going to do something. Okay, what does this give us? Oh, values. It would help if I spelled it right. And then we don't need the map, I think. We have min, we have sum, we have reverse, cycle. I don't even know what some of these methods are. Cycle, clone. Find? No, we don't want find. Could we do a reduce? So we say reduces the elements to a single one by repeatedly applying a reducing operation. So this is like reduce in JavaScript. Okay, I don't know how to use it though. Let's see. Rust reduce function example. Let's see. Can I give like an initial value? Because what I want to do is I want to get a count. So let's see. Can I do, and then let's see, Rust reduce function initial value. Let's see. Because Rust uses the first element as the starting point, it cannot produce a value if the iterator is empty. Okay, well then that's not what I want. If you need to provide an explicit initial value, or if your accumulator type is different from the item type, you should use the fold method. Oh, okay. I think that'll work. So then instead of reduce, we want fold. And we want to start our count at 0. And we want to say accumulator element. And we want to do, let's see, if, I guess we can call this the same thing they called theirs, val, right? If val equals value, then we say accumulator plus equals 1. And then just always return the accumulator. I think. So you're complaining. What are you complaining about? Cannot mutate immutable variable. Okay. And then can't compare reference of progress with progress. So which one is a reference? This is a reference. So we have to do what they did, like this. Okay. And I guess let's see if this works, yeah? This won't compile. How do I make this compile? Let's just return 0 for now. Unused variable val. Oh, yeah, we can. Let's see. Okay, let's see what's going on over here. Let's see. So, looks like count complete is okay. Count collection complete failed. That's the one we just implemented, right? No, we did count iterator. So is count iterator okay? Count iterator. Yeah, count complete. That's the one we just fixed. Count sum. Count none. Count complete equals 4. Count complete equals 4. Yeah, okay, so everything that uses the count iterator looks good. So now we need to address count collection. Let's see, count collection. Implement the functionality for, excuse me, collection, count collection 4, but with an iterator instead of a for loop. Okay. So what are they doing up here? So we have same type of idea. Well, I don't understand. What's the difference here? Is the difference here that where we have nested loops? Is that the difference? Yeah, because we're getting a list of hash maps or a vector of hash maps, a collection of hash maps, and before we were just getting one. Okay, so can we do something similar that we just did? I think so. So we only care about the values, right? So we can say map, or sorry, not map, collection. Oops, I gotta undo this. We got to undo this. So we do collection dot. So I only want the value. So could I do this? Could I do what's flat map? Let's see. Flattens the nested structure. No, I don't think I want that. So we do map and we do, let's see, and I only want x dot, sorry, m dot value. No method map found for reference in the current scope. Call into iterator. Okay. Into, or just call iter maybe. Okay, so then we have our map, and we only care about map dot values. So values is itself a list, right? So can we just, so what does this give us? Let equals, I probably rely on my LSP too much, but I really like using my LSP to figure out like what types am I dealing with. Let's see, so we have values of type string, of type progress. What if I do that map? An iterator of progress. Yeah, this is what I think I want. I think I want this. So we do flat map, and then we do basically the same logic I think that we had up here. we should be able to reuse here. So basically, we get all the entries in the map, and we just extract their values into one list of progresses, and then we count the progresses that equal the one that was passed in to our function. Hey, looky there. Let's see, unused variable value. I think that's leftover. Hold on. I think that's a leftover thing. Yeah, it's a leftover thing. Okay, cool. So, I mean, there's definitely obviously a lot of power in iterators, and it kind of reminds me a lot like Link in C Sharp, where this is a big ocean and there's probably a lot in it, and it's going to take a while for me to figure out what all you can do with an iterator and all the different methods that chain off of it. But I get the point. This is obviously a very nice way to write code, just the same way Link is a very nice way to write code. Let's see. We be getting functional in Rust. I wonder, so anybody here who knows, nice going. Thanks, eosinophil. Is anybody here who's like a Rustacean, like an official Rustacean? Do any of you guys know, is there a performance hit that you take for using methods like this? Like, in C Sharp, you typically will take a hit on performance wise if you use Link. It's gotten better in the last like 2 or 3 years, but historically, using Link obviously comes with some overhead. But I'm guessing in Rust that's not necessarily the case. But I just wondered if there was like a community, if there was like community knowledge around this. Elvis, hello Elvis, good to see you. Blackfire, low key can't live without my LSP. I can't either, especially when I'm working it with a new library or a new API, because I just don't know it, right? I don't know it. So the LSP is really nice because it gives me all that documentation right in my editor. I can see the types. I can't imagine what it was like to write code back in the day without an LSP. I just can't even. I'm guessing that's what the kids are going to be saying in 20 years about LLMs. But I can't imagine writing code without an LSP. I think they are equal because some compiler optimizations. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, and that's how the .NET team has made Link more performant. They special case a bunch of the Link methods. Kurt Kennedy, nah, you want to do that, maybe not fold. Okay. Iter is a zero cost abstraction. Nice. I'm not really a Rustacean, but I know for sure there is some hit. Okay. It is insignificant, though, I'd say. Rather not risk writing your own highly inefficient version. Yeah, 100%. Let's see. Actually, no, fold is good. There's some functions that have heavy perf hits, unless you do something inherently unperformant. Okay, interesting. Okay. Well, for a long time, it was always in the C sharp world. For a long time, it was always known that like if you reach for a link method, your code looks nicer and it reads better, but it may not be performant as if you just used a good old for loop. But that's nice that Rust isn't necessarily the same way, and that's not true anymore now in C Sharp because the team has put a lot of work into special casing a lot of the link methods, so they're not as slow as they used to be. Okay, on to the next one. What are we doing now? We're doing smart pointers. This sounds complicated. Smart pointers. Maybe I should go to the book first. Let's see. Smart pointers. Shared state. I guess, yeah. I guess I'll just jump into the book real quick. Or at least open it up. VI parens. The perf hit comes from what data structure you're performing the function call on. Maps use a move closure, so some things work better with that versus vec, etc. But the devil's in the details, isn't it, Kirk? It's always in the details. Oh, I forgot to pin this on YouTube. For those of you who are on YouTube and may want a horizontal version of the stream, there is a horizontal version of the stream on Twitch if you're interested. I'll pin that link real quick. I just forgot to do that earlier. You don't have to go over there, but I just wanted to make sure you know it's there. Deep Engineered. I like your username, Deep Engineered. Return spelling is incorrect. Return spelling is incorrect. Where do you see that? Was that in the solution I had the other day over here? Huh, I don't know what you're referring to. But if it's something I can fix, I'll happily fix it. Sweetcar, hello. Hello, Sweetcar. Good to see you. Good morning. Kirk, you're getting to the issue you were having with your hash map in the Notepad app when you should have used a ref cell. So are we, Kirk? Are we talking about when I was trying to like extract the active file through like a helper method? I was trying to encapsulate that logic of accessing the current file. That's what you're talking about? Okay. Well, then I'm going to pay attention here. Let's see. In this exercise, we are given a vec of unsigned 32-bit. Let's see. A true restoration wants to avoid the compiler. So interior mutability is what you want to learn. Yes, that's what I mean. Okay, good. Hold on. So Kirk, explain to me really quick what you mean by interior mutability. Are you just talking about like encapsulation? Like you want to make state changes privately and don't expose the ability to make state changes to the world? Is that what you mean? Yes, I almost never reach for ref cell. So I'm happy I want to hear all the opinions because I'm learning. So I have no opinion on any of this. I'm just trying to understand how people can think about their Rust code. It seems like, just from the brief amount of time I've been here, it seems like people who are in the Rust ecosystem lean towards more of a functional flavor and not an object-oriented flavor of code. It reminds me a little bit of, though it does remind me a little bit of Rust, or of Go, where there's sort of an identity crisis. Like, we sort of want some object-oriented stuff, but we also don't want object-oriented stuff. Seems kind of weird. Sweetcard, just asking, what is your opinion in open source? I think open source is great, and I have benefited immensely, selfishly, personally, from people making open source software. I think right now the problem we're running into with open source software is that for the vast majority of people, it's just not a maintainable way to live or to work. A lot of people translate open source to meaning free. They think open source means free code, free forever code. And then we have a large portion of the developer community who just want everything for nothing, you know? And they treat people who want to make a living off of their ability to produce code as traitors to the open source world, and I just wholly disagree. Like, I think open source is great. I think if you want to give your open source code away for free, more power to you. But any human being has a fundamental right to be asked to be compensated for the work that they produce, right? So if you take issue with people having commercial licenses for their code, like, we're probably not going to see eye to eye on it. You know, the C# community has had a huge drama in the last year, in 2025, because like 3 or 4 major open source projects switch their licensing, so they have they now have a free license for non-commercial use, and they have a commercial license for commercial use. And people just it was kind of really sad to see the open source community turn on these people that had largely been nothing but benevolent maintainers and contributors and providers of their software, just because these people want to make a living. So that I guess that kind of sums up my thought about open source. I think open source is good. I don't think open source means free. I think contributors and maintainers have a right to make a living from the work that they do. And as a developer ecosystem, we should be less assholes to maintainers and contributors of open source projects. That's what I think. Danny, hey there, Stephen. Morning all. Hello, Danny. Good to see you. What are we discussing? Well, we were talking a little bit about Rust, and then I was answering a question about open source. Kirk, yeah, you want to write Rust functionally. It uses the Hindley-Milner type system, which the main feature is that you will never have circular references. I have never heard of that type system before. So that's thank you for introducing me to a whole new thing. I need to go look up on Wikipedia later. Ender, ref cell. Does the borrow check at runtime? I have no idea. I think Kirk probably knows. Yep, it's like Frodo's cloak. That's a good one. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, okay, cool. So we're kind of on the same page, Sukar, on that. Voltaire puppet, yeah, get beaten up for not being a communist. It's not really even a political ideology. It's just there is this huge entitlement in the developer. Like I personally would never want to have developers as customers. Like developers are uber opinionated. They want everything for nothing, and they hate change, and they don't want to pay for anything. Like so, and then you combine that with the fact that the majority of the developer community is largely using tools that they did not pay for or write themselves, but then they have this visceral
Blackfire
reaction.
26299 is reminding you to hydrate.
You interrupted me. Yeah, so I don't know. I have strong feelings about the whole open source world. I think unfortunately what's going to happen is less and less people are going to want to be in that world. And so we're going to have less and less open source software because it's not fun to do. It's not fun to do. Blackfire, my bad. I'm just kidding, Blackfire. It's probably good to interrupt me because I've gone on a tangent now. Steven, do you know Nix and NixOS? I don't, Danny. No, those are new things to me. What are those? Voltaire, unless change is instigated by us. Yes, unless we voted for the change, unless we're the one driving the change, we hate change. I try not to be that type of developer though. I try to be very empathetic and a human. I try to treat others the way I'd want to be treated. And so if I was a maintainer and a contributor of an open source piece of technology, I would want to be treated with kindness and understanding and given the benefit of the doubt. And I would want people to recognize the fact that I'm spending probably many hours of my week unpaid working on this thing, right? And I would want to be treated with such understanding. But for whatever reason, that doesn't happen, which is shitty. What are you going to do, though? What are you going to do? People are people. But don't expect a popular developer product from me anytime soon. Speakar, some orgs do, I guess. You mean some orgs pay for open source work? Well, yeah, I guess if you're like Google, or Facebook or Microsoft or whatever. I mean, if you're Google, Microsoft, and Facebook or Meta, I guess now, if you're any of those big tech companies, yeah, you should be paying for open source. Your whole business is built on top of open source technologies. You should be paying back into it, right? You should have engineers on staff full time to help contribute, right, and participate in projects. 100%. No, they respect, I guess. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, some organizations get it, but they have to put up with a lot of riffraff. Yeah, there's a lot. There's just a lot of drama in open source software, and I don't really understand why that's the case. I think it's probably a loud minority, the loud minority. But that's my thoughts. It's cool. I've benefited from it. I think people who want to do that work should do it. I think people who want to make money from doing it are totally in the right from doing it. And I think the developer community just needs to chill, bruh. Chill, or go write it yourself. One or the other. Let's see. I was on the downstream GCC mailing list, and it's super intense when you're communicating with super nerds. IBM is really helpful with GPL v2 FOSS. Interesting. Very, very interesting. It's super intense when you're communicating with super nerds. Yeah, I just don't. I'm sorry, I just don't go in for people who take this shit so seriously. I'm sorry, like kids are starving to death right now in the world. Kids are dying of
Did we
cancer.
just become best friends?
Like Dutch, thanks for the follow. Um, like I just don't go in for people who take this stuff really fucking seriously because it's really not that fucking serious. Like it's not. It's really not. And so I don't really have much tolerance for people who lose perspective about where the thing that they're doing sits in the world. Like I'm all it's like fine to be passionate, it's fine to care about your work and like want to be a craftsman and yada yada yada, but you still got to have perspective. Like you're a human being, they're human beings. You should treat people with kindness and respect. um, you know it's super simple, just don't be an asshole. I told this to my kids the other day, like it takes a lot of work to be an asshole, it takes very little work to be kind, so just be kind. That and that concludes my open source rant for the day. I was in a free project slash mod for Half-Life, and we ended up getting relentlessly criticized and hacked by the true community. Made me sick, especially when I was paying for the servers and coding. Yeah, I mean that's frustrating. Like you're spending your own effort and money. Like that's totally where people just hang it up and go home. This happened. You guys have got me on this tangent now. This happened earlier this year with the Nuke project, which was a pretty popular project in the .NET space. Really cool build system built around C# and .NET, and it was built by one engineer who works at JetBrains and was largely singularly maintained by him. And basically everybody ran him off. Let's see if I can find it. Future. Here we go. This happened in November of 2025. So I won't read this thread, but if you go through and read this thread, it's just a relentless deluge of people bitching about this is not a well organized project. This is not a well maintained. You're not responsive enough. Yada yada yada. It's just a bunch of bitching, and then finally, the maintainer of the project comes in and says, "I'm done. I'm out. Pieces." Drops the mic and leaves. And so now there is no project, right? So it's like you guys made such a big deal and you made life so difficult for somebody who was doing something out of their own free time, right? Out of their own goodwill, that they just stopped. They just stopped doing it. What were you hoping to accomplish? I don't get it. Hey, what's up, Oblivion? Good to see you. I did IMMAP merge code, and I don't know, do I need to be proud or what? Yeah, you should be proud. You should be proud of any contribution you make, man. It takes time to sit down and figure out a repo and sort out the code. You know what I mean? So you definitely should be proud. See, I worked for a huge Christian nonprofit, and they would just sit around all day. Had to quit because I was making 6 figs doing nothing. No job since. Oh no. Do you think you'd want to go back to a job like that? Sweetheart, can you see my issue if possible? If you link it to me, you can. I'm happy to look at it. Oblivion, what a discussion I just landed in. Oh, I know. Well, someone asked, what do I think about open source software? And so then it just opened up this whole can of worms. I have big feelings on this topic. Because I hate that people bully. I hate that there's a portion of the developer community who feels like it's their job to bully open source maintainers and contributors. Bothers me. All right, so but now back to Rustlings. Okay, in this exercise, we are given a vec of unsigned 32-bit numbers with values ranging from 0 to 99. We would like to use this set of numbers within 8 different threads simultaneously. Each thread is going to get the sum of every 8 value with an offset. The first thread, offset 0, will sum 0, 8, 16. The second thread, sum 1, 2, okay, so on and so forth. Each thread should own a reference counting pointer to the vector of numbers. But RC isn't thread safe, therefore we need to use arc. Don't get distracted by how threads are spawned and joined. We will practice that later in the exercises about threads. Don't change the lines below. Okay, I have no idea what they're talking about. So I guess I need to read the book. I don't think this is particularly interesting for me to read on stream. I mean, I'm sure I could stumble my way through this. Okay, so let's see. Define. Let's see. Today started with a lot of free open source software in my veins. Started developing tools and GUIs for the Linux VR space. Took me weeks to get a gist of what's going on. It shouldn't be this hard. Hopefully I'll create something recommendable. If you want to get a preview of how wild the space is, look up Linux VR Adventures Adventures Guide. Linux VR Adventures Guide. Also, that also sounds like a really difficult area to. This is a collection of links, excuse me, useful resources and guides for the amazing world of VR on Linux. So this is basically just like a helpful, like if you're lost and don't know where to start here type of thing. Huh. Yeah, it sounds like a hard world to break into. Steven Jailborn. the troll account. Oblivion, everyone's lost. Well, that sounds like a wonderful experience. Would you say your Rust knowledge is a bit rusty? I wouldn't even say it's rusty. I would say it's not even had a chance to rust, right? Like, because I'm so brand new, I don't even know what I don't know. Yes, Fennel, don't skip the important parts of the book. I think if I need to sit down and read that chapter of the book, I'm probably not going to do it on stream because that's not very interesting to do on stream. It's just me sit here and read. So I might switch over and work on the Notepad app then. On Windows, there are like 5 good apps, while on Linux, every varying hardware setup requires a different stack, and barely every feature is supported. That sounds like a nightmare of an experience, but it kind of sums up the whole Linux issue. Sounds good, Duck Boy. Lurk away, man. Lurk away. All right, so ES Vanille says don't skip the chapter in the book. So, well, I guess we're gonna pause Rustlings for today. And we'll switch over to the Notepad app because I'm not gonna read a book on stream. That sounds uninteresting. It pays off once set up, but it's really not new friendly. Performance and functionalities are really nice on Linux. Yeah, but this is the problem with Linux adoption, right? This is also the problem with why developers hate targeting the Linux ecosystem. Like there's not a common distribution that you can target, right? Every distribution has a different set of challenges, right? So you can't just publish like one thing for Mac OS, right? You can publish one thing for Mac OS, one thing for Windows, but if you want to make something available on Linux, right, you're in this distribution nightmare. Which somebody, I mean, at the end of the day, that has to be fixed, right? You got to make Linux a good place to develop for. Voltaire, feel free to read saves on Audible. Yes, Finna, we can read on stream. It's not that long. Do y'all have LinkedIn? Is it useful for job search? That's what I use. I use LinkedIn and Indeed a lot for job search. And I just feel like you sort of have to be on LinkedIn nowadays. It's like so much of the recruiter community, so much of the job market in general takes place on there, you know? All right, let's pull this then. Let's see. Let's pull this. Do you guys want to read the book or do you guys want to work on an app? How do I start a poll here? What do we do next? What do we do? Read book, work on app. I'm okay with doing either. I don't have an opinion. I just don't want to bore you guys if you're hanging out with me because I can do either. I can do either of these in my off stream time. Does Twitch have a poll feature? Oh yeah, they do. Manage polls. Create a new poll. Question: what to do next? Read book. Work on app. I'm okay with either. I guess we'll leave it. We'll leave it up for a minute. I know there's not a lot of people on Twitch, but if you're on Twitch, I want you to feel a part of it. Okay, it looks like read book is winning at the moment. I'm okay with either though, chat. I'll happily go either way. Read book. Okay, everybody wants to read book. I like it. Okay, we have consensus. Twitch wants to read book. YouTube wants to read book. I like it. Easy enough. I think that makes it pretty much set in stone. There's 11 of you that want to read. Okay, I'll read. I just thought it would be really boring, but hey, it's good to know. I mean, it's easy peasy. And thank you guys for taking the time to interact and answer the poll. That's really nice of you. Okay, we're going to learn about smart pointers, I think. Yeah, smart pointers. All right, how much longer we got on the poll? Poll over. Read book. Yep, poll's over. Okay, we're going to read the book. So, in poll. I like that Twitch has the ability to have time limits on the poll. YouTube needs to add that. Yes, welcome to Steven's Book Club. Today we're reading the Rust programming language book. All right, here we go. Am I on the right scene? Yeah, I'm on the right scene. Okay, and let me open Rustlings back up. Excuse me. Big old yawn. Do all three of us on Twitch holding it down? I know. I know. But it's okay. Like, it takes time, right? It takes time. We'll eventually grow a community on Twitch, too. It just takes time. All right. A pointer is a general concept for a variable that contains an address in memory. This address refers to or points at some other data. The most common type of pointer in Rust is a reference, which you learned about in Chapter 4. References are indicated by the ampersand symbol and borrow the value they point to. They don't have any special capabilities other than referring to data, and they have no overhead. Smart pointers, on the other hand, are data structures that act like a pointer but also have additional metadata and capabilities. The concept of smart pointers isn't unique to Rust. Smart pointers originated in C++ and exist in other languages as well. Rust has a variety of smart pointers defined in the standard library that provide functionality beyond that provided by references. To explore the general concept, we'll look at a couple different examples of smart pointers, including a reference counting smart pointer type. This pointer enables you to allow data to have multiple owners by keeping track of the number of owners and when no owners remain, cleaning up the data. Oh, that's pretty cool. This reminds me of, I know it's not the same exact thing, but remember that thing in Go where you can keep track of how many like Go routine. It's like a wait function or something where you can keep track of how many Go routines are running or that you started. What's that called? It's like Go wait counter or something. Wait group. Yeah. Acts as a counter to synchronize multiple Go routines, waiting for them to finish before proceeding. I mean, I know it's not exactly the same thing, but that's what it reminded me of. This pointer enables you to allow data to have multiple owners. Okay, we already read that. Let's see. In Rust, with its concept of ownership and borrowing, there is an additional difference between references and smart pointers. While references only borrow data, in many cases, smart pointers own the data they point to, which makes 100% sense, right? They probably should own their data. Wait group. Yeah, Minister of Defense knew what I was talking about. That's exactly what I was thinking. Good morning, Ryan. Hey, no work today. Rain washed all the salt off my driveway. Oh, ouch. There's my I have work today, but my wife and kids are out of school. They closed all the schools here. Hey, Uncle Pee Wee's on a 7 stream streak. Way to go, dude. Thanks for coming and hanging out each morning. Appreciate you. Oblivion, watching and listening to someone educate themselves allows a sort of pseudo parasocial learning to happen. Okay, I like it. I like it. Twitch invented the poll feature. I love it. We got snowed in. I can't even order Starbucks. Eesh. Yeah, that sucks, man. The roads here look pretty good, though. Like, I was outside looking. I haven't actually been out driving, but the main roads look pretty clear where I'm at. But I'm guessing maybe just early mornings, icy roads type of thing. Don't want to risk it. On the open source discussion, AI PRs are not helping either. They really aren't. And I think that, I know this is a tangent again. I'm sorry, chat. But I think that's another good point around open source that, like, yeah, AI is adding a huge load to maintainer and contributor workloads. And I'll tell you what, guys, I don't want to have to write all this open. I just want to be able to use other people's code. So please don't run off the open source people. Please stop opening AI PRs if you're doing it. Yeah, it's really awful. Twitch told me I can also share having watched 7 streams in a row, but then it just gave me an error. Oh, way to go, Twitch. Twitch. But thank you, Oblivion, for being here for 7 streams in a row. That's very nice. ES Vanilla, nail in the coffin. Yes, it is indeed. Ryan, lucky, it's all ice in southeast Tennessee. I'm not even making it to the road. My driveway is half a mile long. Ice storms are the worst, man. Ice is the real problem. It really is. Well, I'm sorry you're stuck. That sucks. I think my patched Android is at fault, not gonna lie. Well, either way, Twitch should have taken care of you. All right. Let's see. Smart pointers are usually implemented using structs. Unlike an ordinary struct, smart pointers implement the deref and drop traits. The deref trait allows an instance of the smart pointer struct to behave like a reference so that you can write your code to work with either references or smart pointers. The drop trait allows you to customize the code that runs when an instance of the smart pointer goes out of scope. In this chapter, we'll discuss I still have power, still have heat, have plenty of food, there's nothing to worry about. Yeah, you're right, Ryan. You're my you're my kind of dude, man. Like that's yeah. I mean, if you check, yeah. There's life is good, isn't it? Couldn't agree more, man. But I do hope your driveway gets unthought gets thawed at some point. Damn, Twitch ain't working on my jailbroken smart fridge. The jailbroken smart fridge reference makes me think of Silicon Valley. Okay, in this chapter, we'll discuss both these traits and demonstrate how they're important to smart pointers. Given that the smart pointer pattern is a general design pattern used frequently in Rust, this chapter won't cover every existing smart pointer. Many libraries have their own smart pointers, and you can even write your own. We'll cover the most common smart pointers in the standard library: box, RC, ref mute, and ref cell, which is the one that Kirk was talking about earlier. So box for allocating values on the heap, a reference counting type that enables multiple ownership. Well, we used box earlier, didn't we? We used box for when we were talking about traits. We used the box type. Okay, and then ref t and ref mut access through ref cell, a type that enforces the borrowing rules at runtime instead of compile time. Oh, that's interesting. This seems so anti-Rust, though. You know? In addition, we'll cover the interior mutability pattern where Kirk talked about this too. Interior mutability pattern, where an immutable type exposes an API for mutating an interior value. We'll also discuss reference cycles, how they can leak memory, and how to prevent them. So I'm curious. I'm going to do a little bit of an interrogation because to me, interior mutability sounds a lot like encapsulation. I'm learning Rust. They be talking about interior mutability, but as a C# dev who has done a lot of object-oriented programming, this sounds a lot like another term for encapsulation. What are the primary differences? Let's see. Coming from a C# background, the confusion is completely understandable. In OOP, encapsulation is about hiding state and protecting invariance. In Rust, interior mutability is a specific technical workaround for the strict ownership and borrowing rules. Oh, so this is what you were talking about, Kirk, that this is the pattern that you use to get around this or to deal with it. This doesn't seem like it. Why do you need a technical workaround to get around ownership and borrowing rules? Right? Like I thought that was the point. Interior mutability is a design pattern that allows you to mutate data even when you only have a read-only immutable reference to the container. This is a logical boundary. It's about ensuring that a caller cannot put an object into an invalid state. Is a memory management bypass. It allows you to bend Rust as alien, implies immutability rule. Goal: mutate data when the compiler's static analysis would otherwise forbid it. Huh. This just doesn't seem like this right here. I don't know about you guys, but this to me seems like it goes against the safety thing of Rust. Like why would you want to why would you not want to just listen to the compiler and do what the compiler says? I don't understand. Maybe I don't understand because I haven't programmed in a situation where that was necessary yet in Rust. Let's see, Raphael. It's still safe because you use locking to get exclusive access. Okay, interesting. I'm pretty sure this is talking about mutexes now. So with locking stuff, Ryan, got to be able to make memory of safe programs in Rust. That's kind of what it sounds like you're doing, but I guess that's not what you're doing. Box lets you refer to a type that doesn't know its size at compilation, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I have no idea. Ryan, got to use another $50 of salt today to get it all melted, but I'm not going out there in the dark and busting my ass again. Hold on, wait, you fell? Oh shit, dude. That sucks. Also, $50 of all salt sucks. It's not for nothing. You can literally type unsafe. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Let's see. You could do that with the unsafe keyword, but that's not what this is. Let's see. If it checks if it's safe at runtime, but doesn't that mean that it blows up at runtime? I mean, to me this kind of sounds like slapping any on anything in TypeScript. Ryan, I fell on the way to the car. Oh damn, dude, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I hope you didn't walk away with any bruises. Yes, it can blow up. Nice. Okay. Yeah, this sounds like a foot gun. No, I'm good. Okay, that's good, Ryan. I'm glad to hear your fall wasn't too bad. But that does suck. Okay, the most straightforward smart pointer. Let's see, you have right lock and mutex, which apply locking to protect access safety. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just feel like Rust is supposed to protect you from data races and concurrency issues out of the box, right? So I'm surprised that there's a way to try to circumvent this. But I'm guessing there's certain scenarios that you have to, like, they wouldn't have done this in the language if there wasn't a particular use case they were probably thinking about and building for. I just don't know what that is, right? So to me, it kind of seems like, why would I do this? This doesn't seem safe, or it doesn't seem worth the risk, right? That's, I guess, what I'm saying is like, it seems like this could go really wrong if you don't know what you're doing. The most straightforward smart pointer is a box, whose type is written box T. Boxes allow you to store data on the heap rather than the stack. What remains on the stack is the pointer to the heap data. Refer to Chapter 4 to review the difference between the stack and the heap. Let's see, boxes don't have performance overhead other than storing their data on the heap instead of the stack, but they don't have many extra capabilities. You'll use them most often in these situations when you have a type whose size can't be known at compile time, and you want to use a value of that type in a context that requires an exact size. When you have a large amount of data and you want to transfer ownership but ensure that the data won't be copied when you do so. When you want to own a value and you care only that it's a type that implements a particular trait rather than being of a specific type. So this is where we saw it. This was the use case where we saw it. We'll demonstrate the first situation in enabling recursive types with boxes. In the second case, transferring ownership of a large amount of data can take a long time because the data is copied around the stack. To improve performance in this situation, we can store the large amount of data on the heap in a box. Then only the small amount of pointer data is copied around on the stack, while the data it references stays in one place on the heap. The third case is known as a trait object, and using trait objects to abstract over shared behavior in Chapter 18 is devoted to that topic. So what you learn here, you'll apply again in that section. Wonderful. Hold on one second. I gotta blow my nose. Yes, Vanilla, you trade in some static safety for flexibility. I don't know. That always seems like a trade-off that's not worth it. Kirk Kennedy, always worth it. You think it's worth it? I don't know, man. I kind of like my static safety, my compile time errors. Doesn't this feel like a more and more over-featured language? There keep being things you can do that would be impossible to want without knowing it existed. I am gonna say currently I 100% agree with you, Oblivion. That is exactly what it feels like. But if I had to guess, I'm just guessing because I don't really know the story behind how Rust came to be a language. But if I had to guess, when they were developing Rust, there must have been a series of use cases that they were very familiar with and thinking about a lot, and so they built a lot of these features to address it. But yeah, the last thing you said about there keep being things you can do that would be impossible to want without knowing it existed, that is the thing that really resonates. 100%. All right, before we discuss the heap storage use case for box T, we'll cover the syntax and how to interact with the values stored within a box. Listing 15.1 shows how to use a box to store an I32 value on the heap. Rust devs are definitely geniuses. Yes, they're in a different caliber, different class. I like to play with my JavaScript and CSS and HTML. They like to talk about heap and stack memory management. Let's see. Learn Rust is like accessory work at gym makes your main language better. I think so. I do think that I'll be a better developer once I've spent time in this world. You know, I do think I think right away the thing I've taken away from it is now I'm much more conscientious about thinking about like who is reading to this thing and who is writing to this thing, right? That has definitely been something that's now ingrained in my brain. See, Rust was a personal project of a Mozilla dev because the software running the elevator at his apartment crashed. No way. Are you bullshitting me, Ryan? Let's see, Kirk. I agree, though. You opt into smart pointers for a reason. It's not just something you do for ego. That makes sense. Is that a true story? Okay, guys, we're going to take a little side quest on how Rust came to be because that is a wild story. How did Rust... I'm 100% okay. How did Rust come to be? Let's see. Rust originated in 2006 as a personal side project of Mozilla employee Graydon Hoare. I'm guessing is how you say that name. That's the same last name of the guy who invented the null or put null or nil into software development. Let's see. Voice aliases. See what this sounds like. Give me one sec.
Graydon Hoare.
Yeah, Graydon Hoare. Graydon Hoare, designed to address memory safety issues and prevent software crashes, famously inspired by the frequent failure of his apartment building's elevator software. It was officially sponsored by Mozilla in 2010. The language aimed to create a secure, fast, and modern systems language with the first stable version released in 2015. Oh, man. Is there like an interview with him about this? Let's see. Interview with Graydon Hoare. It's been also, it started in 2006. Wow, it's been around for a while. Interview with Graydon Hoare about Rust. I'm not going to watch this, but I'd like to. Huh. I don't know if anybody stumbles across like a good like Rust documentary or like Rust explain, you know what I mean? Like if anybody knows of anything like that, let me know because I would love to. I would love to hear more about that. Don't forget, Rust is really corpo friendly. What do you mean corpo friendly? I've never heard that term before. Yeah, I've never heard that term before. Corpo, you mean it's just friendly into like the corporate environments? Not a documentary, but you should bookmark The Crust of Rust. Really great series. Okay. I always check Chad's recommendations have not let me down to date. So Crust of Rust series. Okay. Let's see. Save for later. Okay. Done and done. All right. We define the variable b to have the value of the box that points to value 5, which is allocated on the heap. Okay. This program will print b equals 5. In this case, we can access the data in the box similar to how we would if this data were on the stack. Just like any owned value, when a box goes out of scope, as b does at the end of the main, it will be deallocated. The deallocation happens both for the box and the data it points to. Cool. Administrative events. How close are you to completing your Notepad app? Pretty close. I was working yesterday when I was watching the football games. I was working on the styling, and I'm very close. I think I'll finish the styling, and what else? I'll finish the styling, and I'll finish the ability to open the app with a file. So right now you can't. Like, for example, one thing I do a lot with Notepad is from the command line is I'll do Notepad, yada yada file. I can't do that right now with Zoe, so I'm gonna implement that ability to pass in a file. But for the most part, the core functionality is there. So I'm just gonna change the appearance and then implement that functionality. I think I need to add scroll bars for the editor. I don't think the editor has scroll bars right now, but yeah, we're gonna do that. So we're close. I don't know, like, how far am I away? One really big solid day would be enough, but the problem is that I break up working on it over the course of like an hour here, an hour there, right? So but if I just sat down and spent one day on it, I would probably be able to get it to a point where I could get it published. Possible dragon? Maybe. I mean, at this point, I'm at the point where like I want to finish my Rust side quest. I'm more motivated to finish the Rust side quest than I am to continue to build on the application, because I want to start some of my larger projects for the year, and I need to be able to work on those projects during streams, because streams take up 3 hours of my available time in the day to code. So I need to make some progress on those larger projects while I stream. So now it's more of a game of like finishing Rustlings and getting the Notepad app where it's a good enough thing, and then I can iterate on it into the future as time allows. But at some point I need to kind of set it down and move on. Papu Lapu, we are coders. I write code. Yeah, I write programming. Yeah, I do some programming. I write programming. I do some programming. Ryan, the history of Rust by association for computing machine. It's not core, but one of the first steps of Rust even. Okay, hold on. The history of Rust. The history of Rust. Hold on, what was the guy's name that you said? Steve? Oh, another Steve, huh? There's a Steve involved in. Oh, what's this? Huh. I'll try to find it. It's Klabnik, but I always heard people say Krabnik. Oh. Steve Klabnik, history of Rust. I guess this might be it, right? That's what you're talking about? The story of Rust. All right, I bookmarked it. Some light reading. What do you do in your free time? Oh, I read about how Rust came to be. Nerd. That's what my wife would say. My wife would be like, "You big nerd." Oblivion, very fair. Spending time fixing 10% of an app is always known to take 90% of the time. Yeah, the styling is taking a lot longer because I don't understand all the styling APIs. So I'm basically like a fool fumbling around in the dark. Okay, putting a single value on the heap isn't very useful, so you won't use boxes by themselves in this way very often. Having values like single I32 on the stack where they're stored by default is more appropriate in the majority of situations. Let's look at a case where boxes allow us to define types that we wouldn't be allowed to define if we didn't have boxes. Okay. See, there's a video by the Association of Computer Machinery. Oh, that's what it was. That's exactly what you said, and I forgot that part of it. Association of Computer Machinery. Steve Klabnik. There we go. That's the thing I'm looking for. There we go. See, I'm slow, but eventually I pick up on what you're putting down. Let's see. A value of a recursive type can have another value of the same type as part of itself. Recursive types pose an issue because Rust needs to know at compile time how much space a type takes up. However, the nesting of values of recursive types could theoretically continue infinitely. So Rust can't know how much space the value needs. Because boxes have a known size, we can enable recursive types by inserting a box in the recursive type definition. As an example of recursive type, let's explore the cons list. This is a data type commonly found in functional programming languages. The cons list type we will define is straightforward except for the recursion. Therefore, the concepts in the example will be useful anytime you get into more complex situations involving recursive types. Let's see. A cons list is a data structure that comes from the Lisp programming language. Ryan, shout out Rust or Lisp. And its dialect. It's made up of nested pairs and is the Lisp version is the Lisp version of a linked list. Okay. Its name comes from the cons function, short for construct function, in Lisp that constructs a new pair from its two arguments. By calling cons on a pair consisting of a value and another pair, we can construct cons lists made up of recursive pairs. For example, here's a pseudocode representation of a cons list containing the list 1, 2, 3 with each pair in the parentheses. Okay, that's interesting. It's not at all readable in my opinion. Okay. But yeah, I see what we're doing here. And I'm sure Ryan's like, yes, I use this every day. Commas don't exist in lists. Oh yeah, I think this is just pseudocode, but I think they're trying to paint the idea. Let's see. Each item in a cons list contains two elements: the value of the current item and the next item. The last item in the list contains only a value called nil without a next item. A cons list is produced by recursively calling the cons function. The canonical name to denote the base case of the recursion is nil. Note that this is not the same as the null or nil concept discussed in chapter 6, which is an invalid or absent value. Oh, that makes complete sense, right? That's so confusing. Let's see. The cons list isn't a commonly used data structure in Rust. Most of the time when you have a list of items in Rust, vect is a better choice to use. Other more complex recursive data types are useful in various situations, but by starting with the cons list in this chapter, we can explore how boxes let us define a recursive data type without much distraction. let's see, contains an enum definition for a cons list. Note that this code won't compile yet because the list type doesn't have a known size, which we'll demonstrate. So I'll just be honest with you guys. Like what I'm thinking about right now is like I've never had to need to use a recursive data type in the last 5 years of programming. So so it's really difficult for me to say that I really necessarily see the value in knowing this. But I guess it's important to know this so that we can understand box in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Let's see. So listing 15.2 contains an enum definition for a cons list. Note that this code won't compile yet because the list type doesn't have a known size, which we will demonstrate. Okay. Note we're implementing a cons list, excuse me, a cons list that holds i32 values for the purposes of this example. We could have implemented it using generics, as discussed in Chapter 10, to define a cons list type that could store values of any type. Wonderful. Using the list type to store the list 1, 2, 3 would look like the code in the listing. Okay. So you're basically saying, okay, give me an i32 and a list which can all optionally be the ill enum. Okay. The first cons value holds 1, the other list value, this list value is another cons value that holds 2, and so on and so forth. The non-recursive variant that signals the end of the list. Yes, makes sense. We can try to compile the code in listing 15.3. We get the error shown in listing 15.4. The error shows this type has infinite size. What? Recursive type list has infinite size. Okay. Oh, actually, hold on. I've definitely done something like this before in my own life. Okay. I've definitely done something like this before. Let's see. The reason is that we've defined list with a variant that is recursive. It holds another value of itself directly. Yeah, so I've definitely done this. I've definitely done stuff like this before. As a result, Rust can't figure out how much space it needs to store a list value. Let's break down why we get this error. First, we'll look at how Rust decides how much space it needs to store a value of a non-recursive type. Okay, computing the size of a non-recursive type. Recall the message enum we defined in listing 6.2. When we discussed, I also just want to say, I believe in nested trees, I guess. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, or like, well, what's a really simple example? Like, I definitely defined something like a person's class, and that person has a list of persons, right? Like a person that has a family. That I've done stuff like that, which I don't know is exactly kind of like this, but I guess it would be the same idea if you had like if you had like a person class, like class person, and that person then has like another, oh, you can't go back, and that person has like a public person dad, right? And then that person also has a public person mom. Like, I think I've definitely done something like this before, which I don't know if it's exactly the thing they're talking about, but it's sort of that idea of like a self-referencing definition. Anything of one to many would be used as pattern. Yeah, exactly. I just had never referred to it as a recursive data type before, so I was completely confused. I was like, what are we talking about here? But now I see. Let's see, that's also incorrect. The values in dotted pairs are one, a pointer, which is used to identify the specific dot pair and the value contained within. I'm guessing all this code is not Lisp. I'm guessing this is just like pseudocode that they're trying to use, but they called back to Lisp or something for illustrative purposes. I guess they're assuming people who are reading this book know Lisp. I don't know Lisp. Let's see. Callback. I think the reason for box, RC, ref cell, etc. is so you pay for what you use. Simplify but not hiding the core concepts that are being used, so you progress from type T on the stack inside a single thread all the way up to type T on the heap and shared across multiple threads, or async context. Each layer / choice adds flexibility at a cost of more memory, complexity, and slower use. But most importantly, Rust protects the developer from using the wrong one in the wrong context. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I think that it's so, I think the problem for me, Voltaire, is just, it's all just so abstract that until I actually see it used in a particular use case, right, it's difficult for me to see the value, right, or to see like, oh, okay, I see where this would come up, you know. Learning things in abstract is always difficult. I feel like if you can make stuff concrete, it's much easier to go from concrete to abstract than go from abstract to concrete. I mean, like I said, I'm sure this stuff, all these smart pointers things exist for a reason. I just haven't had need of them myself, you know? Which makes sense. I've only written Rust for like 2 weeks now, or 3 weeks. To determine how much space. Voltaire, I agreed. Even just writing some simple code helps a lot. 100% it does. Yeah, 100% it does. To determine how much space to allocate for a message value, Rust goes through each of the variants to see which variant needs the most space. Rust sees that message quit doesn't need any space. Message move needs enough space to store 2 i32 values, and so on. Because only one variant will be used, the most space a message value will need is the space it would take to store the largest of its variants. Contrast this with what happens when Rust tries to determine how much space a recursive type like the list enum needs. The compiler starts by looking at the cons variant, which holds a type of i32 and a value of type Lisp. Yeah, that's fair. Good point. I do want to point out that I'm just going to ESFonil, ESFONL. You said that this wouldn't take very much time. I've been reading for like 30 minutes now. This is 30 minutes is a good chunk of time. I'm never trusting your estimations again. You must also be the developer who just always says 2 days when they ask you how long something takes. It'll take 2 days. Let's see, Ryan. LO Fair. It seems like a bad reference to use. Anyone under 35 likely never touched Lisp before unless they work in finance, medical, or manufacturing coding. Yeah, I would agree with that, Ryan. It's a bad reference. ESFonil, a lot. Yeah, it... You've led me astray. A lot of interacting with chat. Oh, come on, man. Okay, so let's say 15 minutes. All right, let's say 15 minutes. That's still a good chunk of time. This is like a quick thing. This is like a serious commitment if you're going to make it through all this. This is not a fly-by-night activity. All I'm saying is I'm skeptical now when you tell me how long something's going to take. That's all I'm saying. Alright, contrast this with what happens when Rust tries to determine how much space a recursive type, like the list enum, needs. The compiler starts by looking at the cons variant, which holds a value type of i32, and a value of type list. Therefore, cons needs an amount of space equal to the size of an i32 plus the size of a list. To figure out how much memory the list type needs, the compiler looks at the variants, starting with cons variant, the cons variant, and the process continues infinitely. Yes, I understand. Getting a recursive type with a known size. Because Rust can't figure out how much space to allocate for recursively defined types, the compiler gives an error with this helpful suggestion. In this suggestion, indirection means that instead of storing a value directly, we should change the data structure to store the value indirectly by storing a pointer to the value instead. Because a box T is a pointer, Rust always knows how much space a box T needs. A pointer size doesn't change based on the amount of data it's pointing to. This means we can put a box T inside the cons variant instead of another list value directly. The box T will point to the next list value that will be on the heap rather than inside the cons variant. Conceptually, we still have a list created with lists holding other lists, but this implementation is now more like placing the items next to one another rather than inside one another. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. We can change the definition of the list enum in listing 15.2 and the usage of the list in listing 15.3 to the code in listing 15.5, which will compile. So we have our list enum. It has two members. We have cons, which takes I32 and a boxed list, which basically means we're taking a pointer to the list. And then we have nil. Okay. The cons variant needs the size of I32 plus the size to store the box's pointer data. The nil variant stores no value, so it needs less space on the stack than the cons variant. We now know that any list value will take up the size of an I32 plus the size of a box's pointer data. By using a box, we've broken the infinite recursive chain so the compiler can figure out the size it needs to store a list value. Wonderful. Boxes provide the only indirection. Hold on. Boxes provide only the indirection and heap allocation. They don't have any other special capabilities, like those we'll see in other smart pointer types. They also don't have the performance overhead that these special capabilities incur, so they can be useful in cases like cons list where the indirection is the only feature we need. We'll look at more cases for boxes in Chapter 18. Okay, the box type is a smart pointer because it implements the Deref trait, which allows box T values to be treated like references. When a box T value goes out of scope, the heap data that the box is pointing to is cleaned up as well because of the drop trait implementation. These two traits will be even more important to the functionality provided by the other smart pointer types we'll discuss in the rest of the chapter. Let's explore these two traits in more detail. Whew. Okay, that was a mouthful, man. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Let's go back to chat for a second. Steven, can you summarize how you plan?
Kelsey Freeborn 4063 says hi.
Good morning, honey. How you doing? You don't have to work today, huh? A little snow day in your future? I love it. Let's see, Steven, can you summarize? Right? Yeah, she is. She's awake. She's here, which means I have to be on my best behavior now. Steven, can you summarize how you plan when you're learning a new language? Also, I want to get good with Java. I've never been able to move past the tutorial help. I don't have. Okay, so I talked about this a couple times in the last week or so. So I guess learning can be kind of thought about in two ways. You can think about it as kind of push or pull is the way I've kind of expressed it previously. So push-based learning is like you go to free code camp or you go to a Java tutorial and you follow the Java tutorial in sequence where they are telling you what to learn and when to learn it. Pull-based learning is more where you decide you want to accomplish something. Like, for example, let's think about like NVIDIA. And Jensen Wong talks about this. You want to start a business. You don't have all the answers to start the business. You just start the business and you figure it out as you go. Which means, like, if you wanted to do something with Java, let's say you want to build a website with Java, you would sit down and that day you would Google how to build a website with Java. and you would figure out what's the first step you take. Okay, you set up the project. Okay, how do you set up the project? And you just continue in that iterative loop of asking questions, going to get the answer, and then coming back and figuring out what the next problem is. And I think both have value and both are useful. And I think when it comes to languages, I think doing some sort of push-based learning when you're getting started, so like go through a formal course that walks you through the syntax of the language, like expressly says, well, this is how you define a variable. This is how you define a function. Like that's very helpful. And then maybe after one or two of those experiences, then you need to kind of switch into pull-based learning mode, which is I want to do XYZ thing, and I have enough information now to get started, and so I just jump in with both feet, and then I kind of do some just-in-time learning, right? Where I don't know how to do that. Let me go look up how to do that. Okay, now I know how to do that. I come back. I implement. Okay, what's the next thing? I don't know how to do that. Okay, right? And you just repeat that loop again and again and again until you build up experience where you can go longer periods of time without having to look stuff up or figure something out. And that's why I always say that like reps are really important. You just need lots and lots and lots of reps. Adar, my issue is instead of Googling and checking docs, I take help with the models, and that's where I've been feeling that I'm learning less and less. Yes, I think the LLMs probably don't help us retain as much information as if we were to struggle for it for ourselves. Like I saw yesterday, I saw this short on the Primogen's YouTube channel. So I'm just gonna steal his analogy if I can find it. Where he was basically like AI is sort of like somebody going to the gym and handing them an ice cream cone and telling them not to eat it. Which I thought was a perfect analogy with AI. Is like basically like AI makes it easier than ever to learn about a topic, but it also makes it easier than ever to like get around
Kelsey
having
Freeborn 4063 says, could you start over what you said?
I will though only if you ask me to. Only if Kelsey asks me to, I'll start over. Let me see if I can find the short, because the short's pretty funny and it perfectly sums up the AI experience. Maybe it wasn't on his YouTube. Maybe it was on his TikTok channel. Or Raphael text-to-speech boot. No, only Kelsey has the text-to-speech command. She's special, right? I mean, she's my wife, so I wanted to make sure if she wanted to tell me something while I was streaming that she could do it. She could get my attention. Let me see if I can find this TikTok, because I think the short video is very funny. But I guess going back to answering your question, Adarsh, I think is how you say your name, Adarsh. Yeah, I think LLMs, I don't know if they are the best way to learn. I think they're very helpful at times explaining things, but I'm not sure using them to learn results in the same effect as you struggling to learn yourself. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, have you guys ever heard that like you retain information better when you write it down versus typing it? It's kind of that same idea where it's like, I think you can get to the same outcome, but the impact on you is different, right? If that makes sense. But my solution to getting over tutorial hell is building lots of projects. Build lots and lots of projects. I can't find this video. I need to do a better job of bookmarking stuff. I like the style of rubber duck learning. Yeah, I think rubber duck learning is worthwhile. This is not the... I can't find it. I can't find it. If I find it, I'll share it in my Discord. But basically, yeah. Basically, using AI to learn is kind of like going to the gym to get in shape and then somebody handing you an ice cream cone and telling you not to eat it while you're working out. It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing to execute on. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. That's not the point. It's not impossible. It's just difficult to execute on. That's the point. It does make sense, yeah. Oblivion, there are solid, at times, way to get things done, but hugely nerf your ability to put theory to mind. Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think like the context is important. Like if your boss is on your ass, is like, guys, we need to increase the number of story points we put out every 2 weeks, and everyone must use Cursor, and everyone must use Claude Code, and we must generate more code in the next 2 weeks than the history of this company. Well, learning doesn't really matter, so bring on the AI. But if the context is, I want to be the best engineer I can possibly be, and I want to be the most competent engineer I can possibly be, then I don't think you shouldn't use AI, but you should use it in a very, very different way, in my opinion. Kelsey, acting skills on point. Thank you very much. Thank you, honey. I've never used a rubber duck, mainly because my coworkers already think I'm crazy because I talk to myself about code. They don't need to see me talking to a rubber duck. I DM'd you a short from the Primogen. It's not the one you were looking for, but it's on the same branch. Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah. I was trying to find... I'll do a better job of trying to keep track of this stuff. Visit, yeah.
And it's something that makes it makes it so that you can have really big problems that you can solve, and you don't have to feel so small or confined to just like the space you're working in, but you feel like anything that you come across, you can get to a solution, whether or not it's the best solution. And that's a great place to be. And I'm not saying LLMs will take away or it will make you better or worse at that, but if you only rely on things to give you the answers all the time, it will make you worse. The ability to do that yourself is the skill you're after. And programming is the expression of that ability.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you.
The name is the
I
prime.
couldn't agree with that more. And that's why I'm not having LLMs author the code for me anymore. Like that completely, I feel that in my bones. And I know people are going to say, Steven, you're going to be obsolete and you're going to get left behind and we're moving on to a new world and yada yada yada. But at this point in time, I just don't care. I just don't care. I'm sticking with focusing on getting really good, right? I don't think the Primogen got good using LLMs. I don't think David Fowler on Microsoft's .NET team got good at using LLMs. I don't think Stephen Tobe on the .NET team got good at using LLMs. I don't think all the engineers I admire the most got to where they are in the world because they just sat around talking to LLMs all day. I know, it's crazy. It's a wild thing to say, but that's the truth. And so I'm gonna take the playbook. I'm gonna follow the playbook that built those people versus the playbook that we're currently running for the first time. Just that's what I'm doing. Let's see, enjoying a skill and passion has also never been about showing off or staying relevant. You get places by sharing your passion. 100% you do. 100% you do. I just don't think the next greatest engineer is going to be somebody who spends all their day having their code authored by an LLM. I don't think the next Stephen Tobe is going to be somebody who is dependent on LLMs to build stuff. Ryan, something I learned in my early teens is never rely on a tool to always give you the right answer or the right solution, even the docs, because tools are built by humans and humans are never 100% right. This is this is very true, man. This is very true. Yeah, yep. It is. It is, man. I'm gonna keep putting in the reps. I don't know about everybody else, but my plan is to keep putting in the reps. All right. And speaking of that, yes, Vanilla, I might have underestimated the length because of how much I enjoy reading the book, or you might just be a faster reader than me. I mean, it's good. It's a good use of time, though. No, she does not write code. She is a different kind of nerd. She would be a good engineer, though. She's very inquisitive. She has a like an instinct, like a built-in instinct to want to understand, break things down. I guess we must teach her. Yeah, but I don't know if she's interested in that. But she would be a good engineer just in terms of like her ability to like ask questions, be inquisitive, uh, ask why. You know, again, she like breaks things down until they're very fundamental reasons, like first principles almost. But she does it intuitively. I don't think she knows she does it, but she does it very intuitively. R dash, thanks for that. I keep trying to stay away from LLMs for everything. It's you and Primetime Short Short keeping me afloat. Dude, there's so much pressure right now in this space. I mean, I can't tell you how much pressure like there's just so much peer pressure. It's both. So it was weird there for a while. For about 2 years, the only pressure to use LLMs was coming from the people selling LLMs, and it was almost like people thought you were kind of cheating as an engineer if you were using LLMs to write your code. And now you not only have pressure from the people selling LLMs, but you have pressure from the companies that purchase the LLM services and products, which are usually your management, and you have peer pressure from other engineers to rely on LLMs. So it's hard out there, man. Like it's really really difficult. So I don't. And to some extent, I get it. Some people don't have a choice. Like their bosses and their companies are mandating this shit. So like I get it. It's hard. It's hard out there, man. I know your wife loves Critical Role. Has she seen Once Upon a Witchlight? I actually don't know. She does love Critical Role. I don't know if she's actually seen that though. I don't know if she's still in chat. Oh, there, yeah, she's still in chat. Okay. Well, there you go, honey. Chat's got a recommendation for you. Oblivion. I still think it's cheating. I've sold my soul, but I'm also balancing my ability to pump out projects and stay sharp. Yeah, which is totally valid. I mean, it's totally valid to use it to improve productivity so you can earn more money and make more projects and serve more clients, right? It goes back to that context question of like, is your goal to get to the final thing, or is your goal to get better at the thing, right? The doing of the thing. Like that's why context matters. How is it at your job? I probably never asked that before. At my job, I don't think anyone uses AI. Like none of we have a team of, I think there's 5 of them. Yeah, maybe 5 or 6. Yeah, nobody uses AI. Yeah, and there's really no mandate to use it or pressure to use it or anything like that. Like, I guess I'm lucky in that sense. But yeah, we build software, I guess, like it's 2022 or 2023 or whatever. We don't really. I mean, we have approved Gemini usage and we have approved Copilot usage, but when I talk to the other engineers, nobody really talks about using it. Raphael, what? That's crazy. Yeah, yeah. I guess not every place is like big tech, you know. I guess I should also say that a lot of the engineers I work with are older, so I don't know if that matters. I mean, I don't really know if that matters, but like, Raphael, I mean, I work at a startup, early scale up. Yeah, so that it's probably just difference in like environment and where people are in their careers and what their experience. Like, I think a lot of the engineers I work with just don't feel a need to use it. Like, they're perfectly productive and they know their tech stack and they know, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I didn't need it before. Why do I need it now? That type of thing. So I think unless somebody forces it on them, I don't see probably very many of them adopting it into their workflow. Ryan, no one here is forced to use AI either. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing. I think it's crazy that there's these companies who are basically saying, well, we bought all these Chat GPT licenses, or we bought all these, excuse me, these cursor licenses, so we got to use them. Raphael, I don't mean I didn't either. I mean, I didn't either. I don't need it still, but it just makes me do three things at the same time, so then it's kind of hard not to. Oh, we're not. Oh, that's nice. That's nice that companies. I just hear these horror stories of companies who are forcing their engineers to do stuff. So that's nice. Both of you work in similar places. I feel like depending on LLMs in a job context must be insanely stressful. It really must be. It must feel like herding cats is what I imagine it feels like. Or it feels like you're in charge of like 10 juniors, right? Like you're in charge of like 10 juniors and that's the only thing you do all day is you just manage those 10 juniors. You don't do any real programming or coding. You never really get into flow state. You're just constantly, oh, do this. Oh, you're done with that. Okay, now do this. Oh, what happened? You messed up. Oh, okay. Well, instead of that, try this. You're just and you're constantly probably like context switching and yeah. I don't know. It doesn't sound fun. Does not sound fun. Yes, 0% enjoyment. That sounds like an accurate statement. I mean, I prefer it is good to look into, but for juniors, I prefer if they don't use it. If you're senior, then sure. But that's that. See, this is Raphael. I'm not directing this at you. I'm just bringing this up because what you said just it sparked a thought. So this is the problem though, right? Because seniors are running ahead with AI. We're no longer hiring juniors, and we're telling juniors that, oh wait, well for you guys you shouldn't really use LLMs because it hurts your ability to learn. So it's like this complete nonsensical terrible long-term strategy. Like there's no way this ends in a good place. So we have senior developers who are going to get even better or more productive and accomplish more. We're going to hollow out the junior class, and in 10 years, what do we have? In 10 years, we have like senior level architects, and then we have people that can't write code without talking to Cursor or using Cursor. This way lies madness. It doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. Wow, big feelings. Yes, I have big feelings about this. This is what I mean, honey, when you say I don't have opinions. It's like I have opinions. I just don't have opinions on some things. Or I only have opinions about certain things. The best way I think I could describe being forced to use LLMs is trying to get a 5-year-old to eat their Brussels sprouts. Yeah. That's when all the vibe coders will enter the chat and be like, "But Ryan, you're not doing it right. What you don't understand, Ryan, is you need to have ChatGPT generate you a plan, and then you copy the plan from ChatGPT and you put that into Claude Code, and then you put Claude Code into plan mode and you have them refine that plan. And then once that plan is refined, you then put Claude Code into execution or agent mode and you have it actually execute on that plan. And then while that's happening, you open a separate terminal and you start up Copilot over there, and you have Copilot start writing tests for the code that. Okay, guys. Okay. Uh, Jesus, that sounds like pulling teeth. It really does. But that's that's 100% like what that's that's exactly how these conversations go. It's like when you say that like it's difficult, somebody in the chat pipes up and is like, well, actually, you're not doing it right. Wait, but that's exactly what you need to do. Kelsey, again, acting skills are on point. Thanks, honey. Thank you. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. I'm giving it all I got. Can't forget the fedora. We always end up on these tangents. We either end up on an AI tangent or we end up on some. It seems like it's always an AI tangent lately. Maybe we need to have an AI counter, and every time someone says AI, we increase the counter. I don't know. I don't know. What we need to do is we need to learn about treating smart pointers like regular references. That's what we need. That's what we need to do. All right. Implementing the deref trait allows you to customize the behavior of the dereference operator, not to be confused with the multiplication or glob operator. Good morning, Artwork Studios. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. By implementing deref in such a way that a smart pointer can be treated like a regular reference, we can write code that operates on references and use that code with smart pointers too. Let's first look at how the dereference operator works with regular references, then we'll try to define a custom type that behaves like box T and see why the dereference operator doesn't work like a reference on our newly defined type. We'll explore how implementing the deref trait makes it possible for smart pointers to work in ways similar to references. Then we'll look at Rust's deref coercion feature and how it lets us work with either references or smart pointers. Following the reference to the value. A regular reference is a type of pointer, and one way to think of a pointer is as an arrow to a value stored somewhere else. In listing 15.6, we create a reference to an I32 value and then use the dereference operator to follow the reference to the value. Easy enough. The variable x holds an I32 value 5. We set y equal, yeah, okay, we know what we're doing here. However, if we want to make an assertion about the value in y, we have to use star y to follow the reference the value is pointing to. Okay, I get all this. If we tried to write instead, we would get this compilation error. Yes, this makes sense. Comparing a number and a reference to a number isn't allowed because they're different types. We must use the dereference operator to follow the reference to the value it's pointing to. We can write the code in listing 15.6 to use a box T instead of a reference. Cool. The main difference here is that here we set y to an instance of a box pointing to a copied value of x, rather than a referencing pointing to the value of x. In the last assertion, we can use the dereference operator to follow the box's pointer. Next, we'll explore what is special about box T that enable us to use the dereference operator by defining our own box type. All right, let's build a wrapper type similar to box T type provided by the standard library to experience how smart pointer types behave differently from references by default. Then we'll look at how to add the ability to use the dereference operator. The box type T is ultimately defined as a tuple struct with one element. We'll also define a new function to match the new function defined by box T. So struct myBox is a tuple that takes a generically typed parameter of T and then accepts an instance of T. Okay. Then myBox implements a new function which takes in a instance of T and returns a new instance of myBox with its value set to whatever you passed in as x. Easy enough. Makes complete sense. Ryan, I'll give AI this generative design that takes into account anchor points, avoidance geometry, and mechanical loads is amazing use of purpose-built AI features. That sounds like a hard thing to implement with AI. Excuse me. Oh wow, it's already 7. Okay, let's see if we can. How much longer is this chapter? Okay, there's probably no way I'm going to finish this, but we'll try. Okay, here's the resultant compilation error. My box T can't be dereferenced because we haven't implemented that ability on our type. To enable dereferencing with the star operator, we implement the deref trait. The deref trait provided by the standard library requires us to implement one method named deref that borrows self and returns a reference to the inner data. That's pretty straightforward. The type target equals T syntax defines associated type for the deref trait to use. Associated types are a slightly different way of declaring a generic parameter, but you don't need to worry about them for now. We'll cover them in more detail in chapter 20. We fill in the body of the deref method with ampersand self.0 so that deref returns a reference to the value you want to access with the star operator. .0 accesses the first value in a tuple struct. Wonderful. Without the deref trait, the compiler can only dereference ampersand references. The deref method gives the compiler the ability to take a value of any type that implements deref and call the deref method to get a reference so that it knows how to dereference. Okay. Rust substitutes the star operator with a call to the deref method and then a plain dereference so that we don't have to think about whether or not we need to call the deref method. Oh, so this basically at compile time. So this at compile time gets swapped out for this. Okay. The reason the deref method returns a reference to a value and that the plain dereference outside the reason the deref method returns a reference to a value and that the plain dereferences outside the parentheses is still necessary has to do with the ownership system. If the deref method returned the value directly instead of a reference to the value would be moved out of self. We don't want to take ownership of the inner value inside of my box, in this case, or in most cases, where we use the dereference operator. This makes sense. Gonna join on Twitch, because why not? Yeah, come on over, man. Duckboy, it appears my Christmas gift membership is ending later today, so I'm going to take a small break unless there's another reign of memberships. Oh, nice. Yeah, no worries, dude. Yeah, you do you, man. I'm sure there'll be gifted memes in the future, or hopefully there will be more gifted memes in the future. I wish I could direct them to people, or direct them to people who show up on stream the most, but I don't have any control over that on YouTube. I think gifted memberships on Twitch go to people who are in chat at the time that the membership is gifted, but I could be wrong there as well. Most parametric design software has some form of generative design, and 90% of the time it cuts component weight by 25 to 50% while maintaining the structural integrity of the part. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. Sounds like it would be hard to implement, but who doesn't want benefits like that? You see, note the star operator is replaced with a call to the deref method and then a call to the star operator just once. Each time we use a star in our code, because the substitution of the star operator does not recurse infinitely, we end up with data of type I32, which matches 5 in the assert equals in the listing 15.9. Okay? I understand. Good morning, Rock and Brain. Good to see you. Where are we up to in the book? Blackfire, we are, let's see, we are on 15.2 is where we're at right now. Let's see, deref coercion converts a reference to a type that implements the deref trait into a reference to another type. For example, deref coercion can convert ampersand string to ampersand stir because string implements the deref trait such that it returns a string slice. Deref coercion is a convenience Rust performs on arguments to functions and methods, and it works only on types that implement the deref trait. It happens automatically when we pass a reference to a particular type's value as an argument to a function or method that doesn't match the parameter type in the function or method definition. A sequence of calls to the deref method converts the type we provided into the type the parameter needs. Deref coercion was added to Rust so that programmers writing function and method calls don't need to add as many explicit references and dereferences with ampersand and star. The deref coercion feature also lets us write more code that can work for either references or smart pointers. To see deref coercion in action, let's use the myBoxT type we defined earlier, as well as the implementation of deref that we added earlier. The listing 1511 shows the definition of a function that has a string slice parameter. Okay. So we can call the hello function with a string slice as an argument, such as hello Rust, for example. Deref coercion makes it possible to call hello with a reference to a value of type myBoxString. Okay. Here, we're calling the hello function with the argument &m, which is a reference to myBox of type string value. Because we implemented the deref trait on myBoxT in listing 1510, Rust can turn &myBoxString into &string by calling deref. The standard library provides an implementation of deref on string that returns a string slice, and this is in the API documentation for deref. Rust calls deref again to turn the ampersand string into a string slice, or a reference to an own string into a string slice, which matches the hello function's definition. Okay, I just want you all to be clear that like this right here is why normal folk don't just like trying to read this and grok what this is saying. This is why regular folk are like, who gives a shit about computer programming? And it is the reason why not everybody is going to want to be a computer programmer, right? It's like not everybody wants to read stuff like this or understand stuff like this. Some people just want to use software. They don't want to build their own software. No matter how much you democratize it, like no code, low code, vibe code, it doesn't matter. Some people just don't want to get into these details. If Rust didn't implement deref coercion, we would have to write the code in listing 1513 instead of the code in listing 1512 to call hello with the value of type reference myBoxString. Okay. This code without deref coercion is harder to read, write, and understand with all these symbols involved. Deref coercion allows Rust to handle these conversions for us automatically. When the deref trait is defined for the types involved, Rust will analyze the types and use deref as many times as necessary to get a reference to match the parameter's type. The number of times that deref needs to be inserted is resolved at compile time, so there's no runtime penalty for taking advantage of deref coercion. Okay, we just got a last little section here. Similar to how you use the deref trait to override the dereference operator on immutable references, you can use the deref mut trait to override the dereference operator on mutable references. Rust does not deref coercion when it finds types in trait implementations in 3 cases. Does deref from reference T to reference U, from mutable reference T to mutable reference U, from mutable T to reference U. Okay, so it all depends on the trait and the target of that trait. The first 2 cases are the same, except that the second implements mutability. The first case states that if you want a reference T and T implements deref to some type U, you can get a reference to U transparently. The second case states the same deref coercion happens for mutable references. The third case is trickier. Rust will also coerce a mutable reference to an immutable one, but the reverse is not possible. Immutable references will never coerce to mutable references because of the borrowing rules. If you have a mutable reference, that mutable reference must be the only reference to that data. Converting one mutable reference to one immutable reference will never break the borrowing rules. Converting an immutable reference to a mutable reference would require that the initial immutable reference is the only immutable reference to that data, but the borrowing rules don't guarantee that. Therefore, Rust can't make the assumption that converting an immutable reference to a mutable reference
Artwork
is
from
possible.
it is reminding you to hydrate.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We are done, or at least we're done with that section. We have much more to learn about smart pointers because we still don't know. We still do not know how to do this. So we have to keep reading. We need to get to where we talk about arc. And we haven't gotten there yet. All right, it's 7 o'clock, people, and it's Monday. And unfortunately, a snow day does not mean no work for me. So, before we go, real quick, I want to add a command to stream. And I'd like you guys to test it for me. So 1 second before I go, if you will indulge me. Oh, hold on, I'll stick it. I'll put it on chat real quick while we're doing this. We're chatting. We're chatting. I also need to catch up. What's the command? I'm gonna add a command for whenever I'm talking and you guys can't see what I'm talking about, so that you guys can alert me if I forgot to switch the scene back. Let's see, wrong. Yeah, wrong screen. This goes to commands. Okay. Because that's happened a couple times, and sometimes I'll be really focused, and so I'll be ignoring chat, and so I won't actually see people say like, "Hey, can't see your shit, man."
We can't see your screen, bruh.
Okay, and then I need to add that as a command on my site. Talk to the face. That's a good one. That's not a bad one. Call the command I'm blind. Okay, hold on. That's not what I called it, but I'll change it. I'm blind. Let's see. I'll change it. Hold on 1 sec. Edit. I'm blind. I'm blind. That's a good one. Maybe both. I'm gonna hold on. What? Talk to the face. Okay, we can do multiple aliases. Screen. Talk to the face. I'm blind. Okay. Yep. Okay, I'm blind. All right, we've got three. We've got 3 aliases. There is gonna be a global cooldown on it though. I'm gonna put a global cooldown of like 60 seconds, basically. That way people don't abuse it. If people abuse it, I'll just disable it, but this is hopefully it'll be a helpful way for you guys to be able to get my
We can't see
attention.
your screen, bruh.
There you go. It works. Let's see. Let's go up here and say it works. It works. But there's a cooldown on it. Hashtag please don't abuse. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what are we gonna call this? We're gonna call this wrong screen, and then we'll do something like let's see. Sometimes I forget to switch to the correct scene. Use this command to let me know I've done this. And then the aliases are I'm blind, screen, what was the other one? I am blind, and what was the other one we did? Talk to the face. Talk to the face.
We can't see your screen, bruh.
Wrong screen command. That's smart. Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes I do that. It's like, it's not a you guys problem, right? It's a me problem, and so I want to make sure that you guys have a way to say, "Hey, get your shit together, Steven. Get commit add wrong screen command." And then we should be able to do gh run watch. And then we should be able to see this show up on the server here or show up on the command site here in a second. Oh, that was fast. I love that. So simple. Static files. Static files for the win. Cool. All right. We added that. All right, chat. Well, you know what this means. My my time as a YouTuber has come to an end for today.
We can't see your screen, bruh.
It seems like it's a good idea that I did the global timeout. Yeah, it's YouTube life has come to an end. Unfortunately. Yeah, it will. Yeah, the timeout. Thank you for testing the timeout. The timeout should work. Yeah. Blackfire might have to make it longer. Yeah. Yeah, we'll make it longer if we need to. See, this is why only Kelsey has the text to speech abilities, because she's the only one I trust to behave themselves. Yeah, maybe we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll just play it by ear. All right. Well, if you're new here and you want to come back and hang out on stream sometime and I guess watch me learn Rust or try to learn Rust, I am live every morning, or I try to be live.
Your screen, bruh.
I try. I try to be live. Stefanos just did the schedule command. I try to be live every morning from 4:15 to 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, and then on the weekend sometimes I'll go a little bit later. If I have a day off, I'll go a little bit later. If you want to hang out outside of chat, the best place to find us is Discord, which I'll put that link in the chat. It's just discord.stevenfreeborn.com. That's where chat and I hang out when we're not live. No pressure to join, but if you want to join, we'd love to have you. Raphael, so I can beat boop when I enter chat. I want a beat boop command. Yeah, I don't want that to be an op. Maybe we just do a visual. Maybe like that command triggers a visual thing. How about that? We could do that. I mean, the thing is, you can basically do that with chat though, because I show chat on screen, so you can do beep boop, and it shows up on screen. But we can add something more. It's like the thing is like it's balancing like interactivity of the stream and the fact that like there could be 20 people, right, that use the command, and then it's like an onslaught of beep boops. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll think about it. All right, chat. I'm off. I hope you guys. 20 people beep booping. Yeah. Steven listens to us. I don't know if it's good for his sanity. Well, I mean, the stream, like, I want the stream to be interesting and enjoyable for you guys, too. I know I'm not doing anything groundbreaking from a code perspective, right? So I want you guys to have some entertainment. Yes, bye. Yep, it's time to go. All right, I'm going. Y'all have a good day. What is it, Monday? Y'all have a great Monday. I hope your week gets started on the right note. And I'll see you guys in the morning. Tomorrow morning. Or I guess for some of you it's not morning, but I'll see you guys tomorrow. Alright, bye Artwork Studios. Bye Blackfire. Bye Raphael. Bye Voltaire. See you, Duck Boy. Who else is here? Anybody else? I think everybody. Rockin' Brain. See you, Rockin' Brain. Elvis, if you're still here. See ya. What's the Elvis? The name of the book is the Rust programming language book, by the way. If you're still here. All right, bye guys. Bye. Bye. See you, chat. Bye guys.